Want to get the most out of combat in Hogwarts Legacy? Well, then you should definitely pay attention to what your enemies are doing. Because by countering their actions with specific spells, you can cause them to hit their allies, hit themselves, or sometimes even kill them instantly. So in this video, we'll go over all the hidden combat moves in Hogwarts Legacy. If you've been enjoying the game and like the content here on the channel, then leave a like to help us out, subscribe for way more spoiler-free tips and tricks videos, and let's go! Now you might have already seen some of these hidden combat moves in one of our previous videos. We mentioned using Levioso and Diffindo against Duckbox before to deal massive damage, and you might have already noticed that you can throw a boulder back at the troll if you parry their ranged attack. This also shows up as one of the dueling feats, which actually hint at many of these hidden combat moves, so definitely pay attention to them. But throwing a boulder back at a troll with R1 or RB is a great way to deal damage, as it also stuns them, increasing the damage of all the spells you do quickly afterwards. And there are more ways to stun a troll if you exploit the right attacks. When they charge at you, make sure they run into a solid object, as the collision will also stun them. The overhead slam they perform, so their only blockable melee attack, should also be dodged. Because if you immediately follow up with Flipendo, you knock the club back into the troll's face, dealing decent damage, and again leaving them stunned and open for more damage spells. Again, this is another move that's hinted at in the dueling feats, as you can see here. There's also a really cool trick you can pull off every time you come across an executioner enemy. These are the tankier dark wizards that will summon these thunderstorms or raging infernos on the battlefield. But these dangerous elemental effects can actually be turned to your advantage if you bring the right spell. By casting Arresto Momentum while they are conjuring their big AoE, the effect will remain in place for much longer, meaning that with a well-aimed Levioso into the Pulso, you can just knock another enemy right in the middle of it to kill them. You need to be relatively quick in order to do this, but it's a pretty badass way to take out an enemy, so definitely try it out. And there's another trick you can use to deal massive damage against the executioner enemy too, which requires the Expelliarmus charm. Casting this on them as they're charging up their big elemental spell, so before the actual thunderstorm or fire tornado appears, will cause it to backfire and hit the executioner instead for massive damage. Again, you need to be pretty quick here, so keep an eye on this enemy at all times. But if you manage to do it, the executioner will also be stunned in place, so you can unleash more damage spells, which is great because these enemies usually have a lot of health. And there are actually a lot of enemies that allow you to counterattack with specific spells in order to deal massive damage. For example, did you know that you can counter an attacking Infieri by blowing them up? These annoying enemies mostly show up in graveyards, and they don't take any damage until you ignite them with Incendio or Confringo. But when they are burning, their attacks become unblockable, meaning there's nothing to do but dodge and run. Although you have one other option if you also have access to the Bombarda spell. Casting this spell on a charging Infieri that's on fire will instantly blow them up, and the subsequent explosion will also burn any of the other Infieri, meaning you can continue dealing damage to them. By the way, if you're not that far in the game yet and have yet to unlock Bombarda, the assignment for it becomes available right after it turns winter in the story. And like I said, there are more ways to instantly kill otherwise really annoying enemy types. These scurrier spiders can be a real pain, as they can burrow underground and reappear to strike you from below. But like with the Infieri, if you attack them at just the right moment, you can instantly take care of them. In order to do this, we need either Levioso or Flipendo, the latter you get from your second assignment for Professor Garlic, so just complete the first one, which you get pretty early, and then it should show up. But with this 4 spell in your arsenal, you can cast it right before a scurrier spider burrows underground to rip it out, which will deal massive damage to them. And as you can see here, Levioso works just fine too, which you actually get much earlier. And if you counter a shooter spider when they are about to fire with Confringo, you will incinerate them, flipping them on their back and making them explode if you follow up with the basic cast. But when it comes to fighting spiders, the archetype that causes the most problems are of course the giant matriarch spiders. They hit like a truck and have a pretty big health pool, but you can actually deal significant damage to them and lock them in place with one simple spell. Because if you cast Descendo while they are winding up for their unblockable attack, you slam the spider to the ground, which takes away a decent chunk of health, but they're also stuck in position for a little bit. Meaning you can follow up with more damage spells to take out these dangerous creatures as quickly as possible. And when they do manage to break out of the stun, you can bait them into attacking you again, slam them back to the ground, and repeat the process until they are dead. And there are more counter attacks you can perform with Descendo, as the Goblin Loyalist commanders also have a particular weakness to it. They always have a violet shield, so it's perfect for breaking that, but if you really want to deal damage to these guys quickly, you'll want to wait until they perform this 2-hit combo. The first hit will be a parryable attack, but we want to dodge out of the way to bait the second unblockable attack. For this overhead slam, the Goblin Commander will leap into the air, at which point you can cast Descendo on him to slam him back to planet Earth and deal massive damage. We also covered more uses for this spell as part of many strong spell combinations you can perform in our best spell combos video, so I'll link to that one in the video description. Another Goblin archetype to watch out for are the Sentinels, as they have the ability to increase the strength of their companions with ancient magic. However, as soon as they start their incantation, a quick Bombarda will make the whole thing literally blow up in their face. Like with the Commander, the Sentinel Shield Collar is the same type as the spell we are using to counter their ritual, so no need to worry about stripping the shield first. And although it's technically not a spell, did you know you can use Ancient Magic Throw to rip the projectile from a Goblin crossbow and throw it yourself? Took me quite a while to figure this out, but these Goblin Rangers do show an R1 mark or RB above their weapon as they are about to fire, and pressing it will cancel their attack and use the projectile to your advantage, so really nice. But you'll probably be spending most of the game fighting other evil witches and wizards. For most archetypes you need a specific spell to counter them, but the result is often the same, as countering an enemy cast with the right spell will cause them to hit one of their allies instead. So take this Ashwinder Duelist for example, who sometimes casts the Reducto spell. This can be countered by using Defindo, so we do that as they're channeling the spell, which makes them spin and hit the other enemy still present in the arena for almost 2500 damage, which is really impressive. The downside is of course that you don't have control over what enemy gets hit, and sometimes the projectile can also not hit anything. But the biggest issue is that you have to hit the right enemy with the right spell at the right time, which can be quite a bit of a hassle when there are a lot of them around. Still though, there are a lot of enemies you can turn on their friends with the right preparation, so check the enemy descriptions in your field guide collections tab to see how to best exploit their weaknesses. Another trick you can pick up from here has to do with the Animagus wizards, who can be quite annoying thanks to their ability to turn into a wolf. Well, we do get a spell that helps us transform things, and turns out that the transformation spell is actually the perfect counter for these shape-shifting enemies. Casting the spell on a transformed Animagus will revert it back to its human form while also stunning it in the process. So this spell offers you an amazing way to make these enemies much more manageable, and it is unlocked during the second main quest after it turns winter. Let us know if there are more hidden combat moves that we might have missed in the comments, and of course subscribe for way more spoiler-free tips and tricks videos for Hogwarts Legacy. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave us a like, and if you want, you can watch the previous one where we go over a very powerful potion build by clicking on the screen. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.